My name is Emily. I'm 28 years old, and I live in New York. That day, I was leaving work as usual, walking toward the parking lot. It had been a long day at the office, and all I wanted was to get home and relax. Our office parking lot was a bit isolated. Even though it was in the city center, it emptied out at night. That night was no different. I adjusted my bag, pulled out my keys, and walked toward my car. Just as I was about to open the door, I noticed movement in the rearview mirror. At first, I assumed it was just another employee heading to their car. But then I looked closer. A few cars away, a man was standing still. It was too dark to see his face clearly, but it was obvious. He was looking at me. A wave of unease washed over me. Still, I tried to calm myself. Maybe he's just looking for his car, I thought. I quickly got into my car, locked the doors, and started the engine. But just as I put the car in reverse, I glanced at the mirror again. He was still there. And now, I was sure, he was staring directly at me. For a second, my eyes stayed locked on the mirror. He must have noticed that I saw him because he took a step forward. Then another. The man was slowly walking toward my car. Panicking, I shifted gears and sped out of the parking lot. My heart was pounding. "You're probably overreacting," I told myself. But deep down, something was screaming that I was in real danger. I drove a few blocks away, but I still couldn't shake the feeling. So, I started checking the traffic behind me in my rearview mirror, and then I saw him. That man. A few cars behind me, he was following me. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. "Stay calm. Maybe he's just heading in the same direction," I told myself. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't a coincidence. I changed lanes. So did he. I turned right. So did he. Now, I was in full escape mode. I didn't want to stop at red lights, but I had no choice. If I ran a light, he'd know I was scared, but I was scared. Without signaling, I turned into a side street. My eyes darted to the mirror, searching for his car, but he was gone. I took a deep breath. Okay, it's over, I thought. Then my phone vibrated, an unknown number. I glanced at the screen, and then my blood ran cold. There was only one message. "You're fast, but I can still see you." My phone almost slipped from my hands. My breathing grew rapid. He could see me, but how? I had lost sight of him. His car wasn't anywhere around me. Up ahead, I spotted a gas station. Without thinking, I turned into it. I needed to be around people. I jumped out of my car and hurried inside. I approached the cashier. "Someone is following me. Can you call the police?" The cashier nodded and reached for the phone. But just then, something in the glass window caught my eye. Near the gas pumps, a little farther away, he was standing there, this time much closer, and he was holding a phone. Something inside me broke. He was watching me. He was the one sending the messages. I decided to stay inside until the police arrived, but I avoided looking at him. I felt like if I made eye contact, it would only make things worse. As soon as the police car pulled into the station, the man suddenly turned and walked away. Within seconds, he vanished. But this wasn't over. The police took my statement, checked the security cameras, and then something strange happened. They hesitated. One officer turned to me, looking confused. "Can you describe the man again?" he asked. I took a shaky breath. My hands were still trembling. He was wearing a dark hoodie. He had a beard. He was about average height but thin. He was holding a phone, and he was texting me. The officers exchanged glances. Then one of them silently placed a tablet in front of me. The security footage was pulled up. The recording showed the entrance of the gas station. My car pulled in fast. I got out, looking panicked. I rushed inside, but outside, I was alone. The man wasn't there by the pumps. No one was holding a phone. In the footage, there was no man. My stomach twisted. The police officers looked at each other as I struggled to make sense of what I was seeing. I had seen him. I had seen his phone. I wasn't lying to myself. But the cameras showed something else entirely. One officer spoke in a calm voice. Sometimes stress and exhaustion can make people see things that aren't really there. But I know that night, he was real. And the worst part? The next day, when I turned on the news, I saw something that made my blood turn to ice. A man who looked exactly like him was identified as the suspect in a murder that had happened just a few blocks away from where I had last seen him. My name is Sam. I'm 32 years old, and I work as a night security guard at a large hotel. I've been here for 5 years, and while the night shift is a nightmare for most people, I actually enjoy it. Fewer people, fewer problems. Most of my nights are spent watching security cameras, patrolling the hallways, and escorting drunk guests back to their rooms. But sometimes nights aren't as quiet as you expect. That night was different from any other night I had spent at the hotel. It was past midnight. I was sitting at the desk, sipping my coffee, and watching the cameras. The lobby was completely empty and almost everyone in the hotel was asleep. Sophia was at the front desk, but she was glued to her phone. I was preparing for the last few hours of my shift when the elevator panel light flickered. The elevator was moving, but no one had called it. I glanced at the monitors. None of the hallway buttons were lit. Frowning, I looked at the screen. Normally, the elevator doesn't move unless someone presses a button. There was no call registered on the panel. Maybe it's just a system glitch, I thought, but then I switched to the elevator's interior camera. And I saw him. He stood in the center of the elevator. His head was slightly tilted downward, eyes staring at the floor. But he wasn't moving. His hands hung limply at his sides, his posture rigid like a statue. He was so still that I couldn't even tell if he was breathing. Maybe he's just a drunk guest, I thought. It wouldn't be the first time. People passed out in the elevator all the time. But something about this was different. He had been standing there for far too long. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. The man didn't move. The doors stayed open for a few seconds, then slowly shut again. The elevator continued upward, and he was still inside. A slow, creeping unease settled into my stomach. The elevator was moving on its own. No buttons were pressed, no call had been made. The elevator stopped again. The doors opened once more, and he was still standing in the exact same position. That's when it hit me. I knew this man. 3 days ago, he had been found dead in this hotel. My hand trembled as I grabbed the mouse and quickly pulled up the archived security footage. I scrolled back to 3 nights ago, my stomach twisting into a knot, and then I saw it. 3 nights ago, this man had been found dead in one of the hotel rooms. The police had come, checked the footage, and removed the body. The case was closed. But now, he was in the elevator. This wasn't possible. My brain scrambled for a rational explanation, but nothing could explain what I was seeing. Then I remembered something even more horrifying. According to the footage, his body had been taken down. In the elevator, the same spot. My breathing grew shallow. I called out to Sophia. "Sophia, is there someone in the elevator?" She glanced at the security monitor, and her face turned completely white. This is impossible," she whispered. "Sophia, who do you see?" I asked, already knowing the answer but hoping I was wrong. Sophia looked away from me. "This man, he was found dead here a few days ago." A sharp pain twisted in my gut. My hands felt ice cold. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. Then, at that exact moment, the man lifted his head and stared directly into the camera. Every drop of blood in my body ran cold. He didn't blink, not even once. But the worst part, he was smiling. A wide, pale, frozen grin, like he knew exactly where I was. Just then, the elevator stopped. I sat frozen, watching the screen, waiting to see what would happen next. the elevator doors opened, and the man disappeared. At that exact moment, every alarm in the hotel blared. The elevator panel glitched. The cameras flickered to static. Through the radio, I heard staff reporting power outages across the building. I turned to look at Sophia. She was shaking. "Sam," she whispered, "the elevator, it's here." My body went rigid. With a ringing in my ears, I turned to the monitor displaying the lobby. The elevator had stopped there. Its doors were wide open, and it was completely empty. But the carpet inside was wet, as if someone had just stepped out. Sophia frantically tried to rewind the footage. We played back the moment the elevator doors had opened, and what we saw sent a shiver through my spine. The moment the doors slid open, the man simply vanished in the blink of an eye. One frame, he was there, then the next, he was gone, as if he had never been there at all. But the carpet was still wet. That night, we never left the security room until morning, and I never set foot in that elevator again. This is hard to talk about, because no matter how much I try to find a logical explanation, nothing changes what I saw and felt. A year ago, on one of the hottest days of summer, I was volunteering as a guide at a large nature park in my city. The park's trails stretched for miles. Most families came here for picnics, hiking, or simply to be surrounded by nature. It was usually a safe place. But that day, something happened that none of us would ever forget. Early in the morning, I was standing at the park entrance, handing out maps to visitors. The sun was high, the air was hot, but a light breeze was blowing. People entered in groups, some riding bicycles, others walking their dogs. And then I saw her, the woman. She was walking toward the entrance in a hurry. Her hair was a mess, her face pale, and her eyes darted around anxiously. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice trembling. As I stepped closer, she placed a hand over her chest and took a deep breath. "I lost my son," she said. The moment I heard those words, I froze. Missing child cases are always taken seriously, especially in a large forest, because time is never on our side. I noticed her knees were shaking. "What's his name?" I asked. "Daniel," she said. "He's 5 years old. He was wearing a red t-shirt." I took a deep breath. A red t-shirt, an easy detail to spot. "When did you last see him?" I asked. 20 minutes ago. I stopped to take a bottle of water from my bag. He was right beside me. Then, I turned around and he was gone. My heart started pounding. 20 minutes. If a child was truly lost, he couldn't have gone far in that time. I immediately called park security on my radio. Within minutes, a few more people gathered. Everyone sprang into action. Daniel's name was announced over the park's speakers, and the search began. We called out, "Daniel! Daniel, can you hear us?" But there was only the sound of the wind. We moved through the trees, checked the bushes, stepped off the trails. We looked for footprints in the dirt, but there were none. A child that age should have left tracks. Leaves should have been crushed. Soil should have been disturbed. But Daniel? It was as if he had never been there at all. Hours passed. His mother was exhausted from crying. The sun began to set. And then a scream. In one of the most isolated areas of the park, a security officer shouted, "There's something here." We all rushed toward the sound, and we saw it. A red t-shirt. Daniel's mother stopped in her tracks, gasping. The shirt was lying at the base of a tree. Next to it was a pair of small sneakers, but Daniel wasn't there. I felt frozen. Slowly, I stepped closer. The shirt was perfectly intact, as if someone was still inside it. But when I touched it, it collapsed to the ground. Empty. When a person removes their clothes, they're usually messy. Buttons undone, pants bunched up. But these weren't. It was as if Daniel had vanished right out of them. One of the officers crouched down. "How is this even possible?" he murmured. But the most terrifying part was right next to the clothes, footprints. 2 small footprints side by side. Then, a few steps ahead, the prints got bigger. The footprints changed into an adult's, as if a small child had been walking and suddenly grew. But that wasn't possible. Daniel's mother collapsed to the ground, screaming. No one said a word. Daniel's footprints stopped at a certain point, as if something had picked him up and carried him away. A police officer reached for his radio. "All units, sweep the area," he said. But at that moment, we all knew Daniel was gone. Days passed. Professional teams arrived. Drones searched from the sky. Every inch of the park was examined, but not a single trace of Daniel was found. Only his shirt, his shoes, and those inexplicable footprints. But the most disturbing part happened a week later. While reviewing the park's security footage, one of the officers noticed something. The morning of the disappearance, Daniel was seen entering the park. His mother was beside him. He was carrying a small backpack. But just 20 minutes later, around the time he was reported missing, a child in a red t-shirt was seen walking toward the park exit. But he wasn't alone. A tall man was with him. The man's face wasn't visible on the camera. He wore a black hat. And the most terrifying thing, he walked out through the exit, without the child. I know Daniel will never be found.